afternoon, everybody. It's Jim, it's Amadeus, and we are here to talk soccer. We got Sean is probably in mourning at the moment because it looks like the Glazers want to keep Manchester United after all of the posturing and selling. They look like they're going to take them off the market, and they've found a number of small investors who are going to buy up a chunk of their minority partnerships.
Yeah, they're not going to have. They're definitely not going to have a team left by the summertime. They're not going to have a stadium to play in.
Yeah,
it's going to get bad.
Right now, we should take up a collection for Sean because I'm quite sure he'll be in Manchester. We want to keep him out of jail as much as possible. So, if anything happens in Manchester, we do not want our esteemed colleague, Mr. Miller, to be involved in it. So we'll try to take up that defense. But we'll get a a GoFundMe page set up for Sean in that regard. I guess they never technically said they wanted to sell the whole thing, and I think that's where they got their out in that. But like you said, they may live to rue the day that they decide to keep it.
Yeah. I don't think they understand how upset the fan base is with them, and they're not going to have a team. They're not going to have a team left to own.
Well, the one of the things that I think entered into it is the Commanders sold for $6 billion. There wasn't any offers over $6 billion for Man United. And I think that they felt, wait a minute, we're not going to sell this thing if we can't get as much as the Commanders in this deal. So who knows? Look, they could wake up by the time we finish this podcast and this show, we could wake up and find out that they've been sold. So I wouldn't necessarily read that much into it, but it looks like they're cooling to the idea. But who knows? So let's talk about soccer yesterday, soccer today. There's been quite a bit of news.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't too many games yesterday, but obviously today is the big Champions League.
Mm-hmm.
Today and tomorrow, we got obviously the marquee matches, the Chelsea versus Real Madrid match today.
Mm-hmm.
But the Napoli versus AC Milan one is going to be a good one as well. So if you can watch both, definitely, I would recommend that. It's going to be
this is a 2-screen day.
Yeah, it's going to be very exciting in both of those matches. Napoli at home, down a goal on aggregate. They're finally going to have Osimhen back in the lineup. It looks like he's going to be starting in this one. So. It's definitely, that one's going to be an exciting one. And then this Chelsea Real Madrid, I mean, obviously Chelsea's down 2-0 and they've been so bad lately, but you never know. You never know. Todd Bowley's convinced they're going to win 3-0. So they've been getting their chances. It's just, it's a matter of finishing with them. So and I mean, Real Madrid, their defense isn't, it's good. It's good when it wants to be, but they've been known to slip up before. So it's going to be an interesting one for sure.
Well, it's going to be fun, and I think that whole situation. You guys have been saying that Man City's the team to beat. It seems like that remains the case.
Yeah, I mean, Man City is they'll be in Germany playing Bayern tomorrow, but. They have been rolling in both the Premier League and the Champions League. It's gonna be tough to see any team beat them. I still think Napoli obviously has a chance if they can get by AC Milan, I think, and stay healthy. I think Napoli still has a very good team. It'll be interesting to see if they have to play each other eventually. But yeah, Man City is they are a juggernaut right now, and they're definitely not slowing down anytime soon.
So. Let's switch gears, if you don't mind, for a second over to baseball. Interesting stat over the weekend, and that is that baseball games are now going on an average between 25 and 35 minutes shorter with the pitch clock, which I thought was, amazing. And oh, by
Yeah,
the
there's been a few that are like 2.5 hours I've seen.
yeah. Um, then you put to they took away the shift, which we talked about, and batting averages are up and scoring is up. You know, in a very strong way. So, um, it looks like baseball made a couple of decent decisions in the short sample size we have to measure.
Yeah, I've definitely I've been seeing a lot of games go over, as you said, a ton of runs, and then the kind of teams you wouldn't expect scoring a bunch of runs, like the Cincinnati Reds and the
Right.
Pittsburgh Pirates, have been on fire. And you got to remember, these are the colder months of baseball. This is supposed to be when scoring is down, so you can only imagine how it's going to turn out once it starts to get hot in June and July.
Well, the ball doesn't fly in cold weather, and so like you said, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati are not exactly vacation destinations at this time of the year. So, yeah, I mean, it's we've been seeing that. We've also seen teams that we thought were going to be good get off to a kind of a bizarre start because look at the Padres. I mean, the Padres, the Dodgers, that whole division out there is basically a mess at this point.
Well, you know what, Jim? The Padres, everybody can hype them up every year as much as they want, but I'm never buying into the Padres as this great team. Yeah, they're going to win 90 plus games probably, but I wouldn't. Seeing them off to a slow start doesn't really shock me. What shocks me though is the Dodgers in that division off to an 8-9 start below 500, and they're really struggling to get out of the gate here. Same with obviously, my Cardinals, who I have to win the World Series, off to a very slow start. But yeah, there's the Houston Astros that they have their World Series hangover. So yeah, a lot of these good teams are. And then you got teams like the Cubs and the Pirates that are above 500 is off to a hot start.
It's over the years, St. Louis has always been a slow starting team. The Cardinals have, they usually don't get out. But you start to watch the Cardinals at the All-Star break, and then after the All-Star break, regardless of whether they pick somebody up in the trade deadline or whatever, it seems like they click in. They'll mess around June, July, and then all of a sudden you're looking up and go, wait a minute, where did they come from?
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up, because the last few years, actually, it seemed like, the Brewers dominate that division for the first half of the season, and then all of a sudden the Cardinals come out of nowhere, take the division from them late in the year, and then all of a sudden you have this Cardinals team that's super hot, winning like 18 of their last 20 games or something, going into the playoffs. So they definitely know what it means to get hot at the right time in the season.
Yeah, and it seems for the past 5 or 6 years that's been their MO. That they start a little bumpy, but at the end of the day, they're there at the end. And that's all you want. You want them to be there at the end. One of the things that I think is surprising to everybody in baseball is why Juan Soto can't figure out how to hit.
Oh, that's an easy question to answer.
Okay, go ahead.
It's because he decided to wear a Padres jersey.
That's probably true.
Okay, everybody, the Padres, remember when Manny Machado needed all that money years ago? And then what has he done ever since joining the Padres? You don't even hear his name anymore. So
he's in the witness relocation program.
This is what I mean. It's like, the Padres are like the Leafs of the MLB, right? Anybody that goes there just all of a sudden like goes cold. I remember a few years ago when they were hyping up Phil Kessel came to Toronto, and it's like the guy's career died here, but all of a sudden he became a star on the Coyotes and now the Golden Knights at 40 years old. Ridiculous.
Well, I think that you would think with that lineup, I mean, they spent a lot of trade capital, I guess would be the way to put it, to get Juan Soto. And look,
they mortgaged the future.
Yeah, I watched Juan Soto play almost every game he played from the time he came up at 18 years old till they traded him. And I don't think there was anybody in baseball that enjoyed playing baseball more than he did. He and Bryce Harper were the same way. They were kids who just loved it. And so you saw all the raw talent there. The raw talent remains. But at the moment, the strike, when he came over to the Padres, he was mediocre. He wasn't Juan Soto. And if this continues, this trend continues, it's going to be a lot. Boris talked about the potential of getting him being a $500 million player. He better figure out how to hit soon, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah, San Diego will do that to you.
And it's a gorgeous town. I mean, if you wanted to pick one of the best cities in the country to live, that would be one of them. You're talking about sunshine and basically a Xerox forecast that has the highs in the mid 70s on most of the year, lows in the 40s. You got half an hour, 45 minutes out to the mountains. You can be out skiing in 2 hours on top of Big Bear. You can be in Los Angeles. You can be in Mexico if you want to go down there. I mean, there's plenty of reasons why San Diego is a great place. Maybe the Padres have the problem of the players get too much enjoyment before they go to the game, as opposed to playing in Petco Park.
Yeah, and you know what? It's really sad how disappointing of a team they are year after year, because you look at the fan base.
Yeah.
And the whole city of San Diego, when the season started, they cared more about the fact that the Padres season was starting than they actually cared that they had a team in the Final Four of the college basketball tournament. Nobody cared about San Diego State, but they all cared about the Padres, and the Padres are just, doing the Padres.
Yeah.
Padres.
Do what they do best. And then you've got guys like Blake Snell, and you're like, Blake Snell was never
the same guy.
Well, Blake Snell, even when he won the Cy Young, wasn't more than a 5 or 6 inning pitcher. But there's a friend of mine who covers baseball, who does stats, total crazy stat stuff. He's a sabermetrics maniac, and he said that the third time around for Blake Snell, usually your batting average goes up 200 points. So you and I seemingly could hit off of Blake Snell in the, on his third time through the lineup. So he's not fooling anybody, that's for sure.
Yeah, James Caprillion had a big problem with that last year. Actually, he was great through the first 2 rotations of the lineup, and then the third time it was just lights out. You could easily get some hits off him. So,
what's your theory on the starter routine, where they have an opener and then they go through the bullpen and they're kind of working their way back, because they start with their closer and then work their way back to the lineup. So in essence, you're getting a new pitcher every 2 or 3, about 3 innings.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends like who's doing it, right? Like
that's true.
Some teams don't have the pitching staff to do that. Like if you're asking me about the Phillies doing that, absolutely not, or the White Sox. But but a team like the Tampa Bay Rays seems to know what they're doing. They did a lot last year. Yeah, and going back to Blake Snell, I think it's a testament to how good the staff is, the coaching staff of the pitching for the Rays, because you look at these guys who are so great, Blake Snell, Charlie Morton's another one, and they haven't been the same since leaving the Rays.
David Price.
Yeah, and everybody, when they left, they were like, that's classic Rays. They don't want to spend the money. They're letting such good pitches go. And, clearly they knew something, right? They had younger guys. They knew they're not going to succeed if we send them here, right? So, well, they obviously know what they're doing.
Yeah, that brain trusted, with the Rays. They're very good at knowing when to get rid of somebody and letting them go. And, if you look at the players going all the way back to Carl Crawford and BJ Upton and those guys, right? They left the Rays, and there hasn't been, perhaps, I guess, Evan Longoria when he was with the Giants. I think he still is with the Giants. Longoria was a role player, no doubt about that, but he wasn't the Evan Longoria in Tampa Bay. And we've already said Blake Snell. We've talked about Upton. I mean, none of those guys once they left the Trop, they were nothing of what they were when they first started. And I think you're right. I think the key to it is they know what the shelf life of these guys are.
Yeah, and it's not like they're bad pitchers. It's just that they went from being very good, like Cy Young candidate pitchers, to just mediocre in a matter of a year.
Right. It's like, okay. And by the way, the Charlie Morton thing, Charlie Morton was also a Pirate. So and so we know what the Pirates been a AAA farm club to a ton of Major League Baseball teams. But this one, and the irony is, look who's one of the guys who's leading the Pirates back. It's McCutchen. You got Andrew McCutchen, who left the Pirates because they couldn't pay him, the money he wanted, and had, good careers at other places. But, he decided, well, I'll go back and play in Pittsburgh. And, he's lighting the place up again.
Yeah, they're actually off to a really good start. They're scoring runs, which is a big thing. And, it might be a team to watch. I don't know. I expect them to regress at some point, but right now, they just lit up the Rockies yesterday. Was it 14-3?
Right. Yeah. It was. They beat them by 2 touchdowns. But yeah, it was wild. And the Pirates, in some regards, like the Rays, not quite as good as the Rays, but they develop ball players. They normally get rid of them, but they develop them. The thing with the Pirates is the guys that, we just said that when the Rays get rid of somebody, it doesn't necessarily work out well. When the Pirates get rid of somebody, it usually works to the advantage of the team that gets the Pirates player, because they usually just blow up whenever they, leave the team. So there's that. So yeah, it's a pretty wild situation in that regard.
Yeah. Did you hear about the Oakland A's? What they're planning?
Well, I've heard a lot about the Oakland A's, but no, I'm not sure what
the fans are planning a reverse boycott on June 13th.
I saw that.
Yeah. So basically, the idea is, they picked a weeknight game, just on a random weeknight against the Tampa Bay Rays. So basically a team that otherwise on a weeknight wouldn't get a lot of fans. And they're going to sell the building out to show the MLB and the country that, the fan base is there. We still support the A's, but we need to get rid of these clowns in charge because, playing AAA baseball isn't going to cut it in this league.
Well, there's that. And I got to tell you, they can rag on the Trop, and it is a pain in the neck. There's no question about it. But there is not a worse stadium in professional sports than the Oakland Coliseum. It is just an absolute hole. And, they built it it was a multi-purpose stadium. Then they made it Raider friendly, which screwed up the baseball side of it. It's got 400 feet from the foul line to the dugout. I mean, there's not a larger foul territory in baseball than the foul territory there. But I do love that idea. There was a guy in Baltimore who was in a personal, a media guy who was in a personal vendetta with the owners. And so he said, look, it's not we don't like the Orioles. We just don't like the owner. So he called a day when they would do somewhat like you're saying about. They got 25,000 fans who went to the game, and at the end of the 8th inning, all 25,000 of them left. And it was, you're looking around and there are people just gone. And it was
right at the last inning.
It was a walkout. That was the deal. The deal was, we're going to come there. We're going to root for the team, but when we get to when 8 innings are gone before the game is over, we're going to make the protest because, not 25,000 people usually leave at the same time, unless you're in Los Angeles with the Dodgers. But that's another story for traffic reasons that they'll do. But
Sounds like me in Toronto.
yeah. So anyway, that's what happened, and it made national press, and it made the Oriole ownership look bad, but didn't seem to cause them to do anything to make life better. But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
and see, like I love that idea, but
well,
it bothers me how it doesn't get a result because like what do you do, right? You have you have there's scenarios where the players want more money, the owners don't want to give it to them. Then you have lockouts, you have strikes. But what happens when the ownership is so bad it's bringing the team in a terrible direction and doesn't have any plans on fixing it? What do you do as a fan when you want to cheer for that team but you don't support the owner? There's nothing you can do, and then eventually as a result you're going to end up getting relocated and lose your team because of negligence by the owner.
we're back. What happened there? Foxy said, "Sad news." Foxy, they may not. Okay, right now they've said they would not sell them, but I think upon further consideration, when they start looking at the pitchforks and all that situation's going to come to them, it might very well turn them. I mean, look, if your franchise, to your point, Amadeus, one of the things that people are tired of building baseball stadiums on their dime and then not getting results. So it's not like so if you build a stadium and then the owner doesn't put any more money into it, you've just created a revenue source for the ownership group. At the same time, a burden on everybody who lives in the community, who has to pay the taxes to pay off the damn stadium. So there's always been this theory in sports, and it's become really tight now, that okay, if you want, it's got to be a combination of public money, private money. And in Oakland, I mean, you saw what happened. They lost the football team. The basketball team went across the bay to play in San Francisco. And they are on the precipice. I don't think it'll happen, but it could, of them heading, to join the Oakland Raiders in Oakland's new suburb of Las Vegas, where you were last week. Now, there is a bit of an odd twist there, and that is that Vegas spent almost $800 million for that stadium that they built, that the Raiders are involved. There isn't really a taste at this moment to go back to that till and try to find $600 or $700 or $800 million to build another stadium, this time for the baseball team. So
it's okay. They can relive the good old days in Oakland with just turn Allegiant Stadium into a baseball field.
Yeah, they didn't have an outdoor version. Yeah, that would be an indoor version. I'm sorry. Some people have said play at the AAA ballpark. By the way, the AAA ballpark out there is gorgeous. Okay, absolutely is. As a matter of fact, it's been voted a couple years in a row the best minor league ballpark in baseball. But last time I checked, in the summertime, it usually gets around 109, 110 degrees in Vegas, and that can get a little stifling, in what goes on. How's the attendance rate in baseball this season?
Are they down if you're the A's?
Yeah, Foxy, it's one of those depends on where you are situation. Atlanta's doing well. I think that there's cities that St. Louis always does well. St. Louis is probably one of the best. Well, not probably. It is the best baseball town in the country. no question. And with the most polite fans I've ever seen. These people are just,
I think in sports in general for St. Louis, just
Yeah,
because
no,
you saw they
yeah,
were the only XFL team selling out the stadium when the Battlehawks were playing.
right. Yeah. So I mean, it's encouraging that baseball is getting back, but I'll say this: the viewership on television is up, so that gives you an indication that you have a product that people want to see. Part of it too, Foxy, is that um, in de- depending upon where you are in the country, if it's cold outside, it's hard to get 30,000 people to come out to a baseball game where you're gonna have to sit and watch that game, and it's not like football where things are constantly moving. It's a slower paced game, so it if you're out in the stands, it tends to be a cold day out there. So, but I'll check it for you on the attendance side, and as I said, I think there's better. Uh, it's basically on a city by city basis. You know, it's something that is not a phenomenon. I mean, that's kind of the same way it is in all sports. But um, so far, 2023 through 9 games, this should not be a surprise to anybody. The LA Dodgers are averaging, they're averaging 50,000, which is capacity at Dodger Stadium.
I was going to say that's not even like it's more than Rogers Center capacity.
Right. Through 11 games, number 2 on that list is Amadeus' second favorite team, the San Diego Padres. Their average attendance, this is not bad. Their average attendance is 41,000. So that's
like I said, they'd rather watch the Padres at the beginning of the season playing their first games of the year than they would rather see a San Diego team in the Final Four of the college basketball tournament.
And there's St. Louis in their rightful place at 40,000, which is almost, again, this 41,107 in San Diego and 40,305. Those are very close to capacity crowds every day. And the Dodgers are a capacity crowd. Yankees at 39,000, Philly at 38,000, Houston at 37,000, Atlanta at 37,000, the Jays at 36,000. The Mets,
that's not surprising.
The Mets in the 9th spot at 35,000, and the San Francisco Giants. Now, this is in fairness, the San Francisco Giants have only played 6 home games. And they're averaging about 35,000.
Yeah, see, the Jays just did renovations to their park. Yeah. They got like a whole new area that's first come, first serve. It's like bleachers right beside the bullpens. You can watch these guys warm up now, like right in your face. So everybody's just been so excited to go check out the new renovations, basically.
Actually, I saw that Dan Schulman was talking about it on the Rogers broadcast. Of their outfield. They've got all kinds of, like a park out there, which I guess is kind of cool. Through 10 games, the Oakland Athletics are averaging 11,000.
Oh, that's even worse. I read like 12,000 a few days ago.
Well, and by the way, Miami is averaging 13,994. So we can round up and say it's 14,000. Kansas City, we're going from the bottom up here for just a second. Kansas City through 11 games is 16,000. Pittsburgh through only 6 games is of 17,000. Tampa Bay through 10 games is 17,000. And Cincinnati's always been a good baseball town, but through 10 games, it's 18,000. So there you go, Roxy.
I think the Marlins are a team. People don't talk too much about. Everybody talks about wanting to relocate the Rays because of how bad the Tropicana Field is, but Miami does worse in numbers for attendance wise, and they've had a much worse team over the years, haven't they? Over the last 2 decades, they've been the kind of team where the years they won the World Series, they decided to sell the whole farm the next year.
Yeah, that was Wayne Huizinga. Yeah, we did a touch on that a little earlier, Foxy. Baseball games actually are averaging about a half an hour shorter, and yeah, the teams could be losing money on beer. Although I don't know if you knew this, Foxy, but after the 6th inning in some ballparks, in a lot of ballparks, they don't sell beer. So
Really?
yeah.
It must be a state thing then, because like not up here in Toronto, man.
I wasn't saying the entire league did it. I'm just saying.
No, I know, but I know like because states have each state has different laws. Like I've been to states
and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to states where like they don't sell alcohol on certain days, I guess, and then I've been to other states where there's drive-throughs through the liquor store. So up here in Toronto, though, man, you get a beer on your way out at midnight if you're leaving like the 17th inning. Yeah, let's go.
Beer and a hot dog on the way out.
Fill it up for the train ride home.
Right. It's funny. Years ago, I did a football game at Mississippi State, which is in Starkville, Mississippi, and that's supposedly a dry county. And so we went to dinner, and after dinner, we were going to go out, see the town. It doesn't take long, I can assure you. We go into a pub, ish, not necessarily a pub because they didn't have them, but we went to a place, and we were talking to the SID there, and I said, Steve Alvis, who was the producer, said, I really would like a beer. You can't get, how far do we have to drive to get something? And he said, well, you can get a beer here because you just have to buy a bag of ice. He goes, all right, fine. Person comes up, to help to wait on us, and Steve says, I'll take a bag of ice. She goes, that'll be $7. He goes, $7 for a bag of ice? It's insane. Don't worry. Comes back with a bag of ice, and they give you the 6-pack of beer with the bag of ice. They can give you the beer because you're not buying it, but you have to buy the ice. Now the ice you can do whatever you want to with it, but
I was gonna say that's
always ways to get around it, I guess.
That's like their code. You're paying $7. Oh, I want a bag of ice. Do you have any ice here?
Are you out of ice? No.
Yeah, that'll be $7, please. Okay, here you go. Oh, and have a complimentary, 6-pack of beer on us.
Beer. Yeah. So yeah, that was. Or my trips west of the Rockies, more often than not to Denver, when people would literally send me with a empty suitcase so I could bring Coors beer back to them. So that was back in the day when Coors was just a regional beer. And I'm not even sure people knew what it tastes like. I think it was more of the ability to get something they couldn't get somewhere else. It always brings a premium to it. So there's that.
Now it's all over up here. I think they're partnered with.
Well, they bought a bunch of regional beer companies, and then
Molson is part of.
Well, yeah, Molson up there is.
It's called like the Molson Coors now.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's the Molson Coors Corporation, but it's owned by that large European company that sponsored the World Cup. They were pushing for Budweiser. I think they own Budweiser too. They were pushing for to have beer at the World Cup. But yeah, they own basically you could pick out the largest like domestic beer in any country. They own the biggest manufacturer of it.
Well, it used to be people were excited about getting beer from Australia because they had the largest alcohol to proportion length. So I think Budweiser was like 3.2% alcohol, and like Foster's was like 6. You know,
Yeah, ours is like 6 or 7 up here too. So that's why I know a few Americans
high
at the
octane.
border who are like love them Canadian beers.
Well, you can't be, at that point, it wouldn't take a lot to get a little more than buzzed with that regard. That would be not a problem.
Hey, we got to deal with the cold, so we need double the alcohol content.
I wasn't throwing shade on any of the Canadian breweries.
No, I'm just saying that's right. When you got to live in like -20 all the time, it's at least
you gotta have some lubricant to keep the body parts moving.
Yeah, I can't feel anything anyway, so at least I can feel that going down.
No, numb at all. Well, the good news is you can just keep it outside and not have to worry about putting it in the refrigerator.
Oh yeah, sometimes that's the best thing, right? There's no room in the fridge; just throw it in the snow outside.
Make sure that you chip it off every once in a while.
And you can actually like put it in the snowbank, right? So it's literally like it's in a thing of ice. It's not just out in the cold; it's in a thing of ice. It's convenient.
I remember in Cleveland that I had friends who would do that. They would say, and of course the funny thing is that the funny thing for me, because I came from the South, was that it would be, you'd have in the wintertime there'd be snow everywhere, and people go, well, that's what we're gonna have a barbecue this afternoon. And you're like, okay, where? And they go, well, on the back deck. We got rid of the snow, and we're gonna stand and fire up the grill. Like, it's 14 degrees. You're gonna go out. Don't worry about that. It's, you'll get used to it.
Hey, the barbecue gets hot. It's fine. It'll still cook.
Yeah. It's like a lot of people were over by the barbecue because it was warm there. So it's kind of like a fire pit, only with food on it. So you got that going for it. It's kind of funny, but it was fun, in that regard. But I think Stanley Cup playoffs started last night in full-fledged tonight as well.
Yeah, I watched a few of the games, and I remember why I hate the NHL again. So,
well, the Leafs play tonight against Tampa Bay.
Yeah,
the 2-3 seed. Should be interesting game. I gotta tell you, I've been surprised. Changing gears here, not to the NBA, that Golden State has not played. This is a defending NBA championship team, and the Kings are waxing them pretty good here.
Yeah, they've been a huge disappointment. And,
Draymond Green got not suspended. He got kicked out of the game last night because I forget who grabbed him by the leg. Somebody grabbed him by the leg and pulled him down. And so, that guy got a flagrant foul. And then Draymond Green took his foot and just planted it in the guy's chest, and that didn't help. It got him kicked out. So for the last 6 minutes of the game, they didn't have him. Not sure that was the
your best defensive player. Just
right. Your best defensive player is lost his mind, and I think if things don't get right soon, Steph Curry will be selling a lot more subs than he will be playing basketball.
Oh yeah, they'll be out in the first round. They still have to win a road game to win this series. Like, they could come back and tie it 2-2, but it means nothing. You got to win in Sacramento.
Yep. The other thing is that the most polarizing, at least one in my personal working with different agencies and sports agencies, the most polarizing athlete of our decade at this point, LeBron James, is still got the Lakers in the playoffs, and they're playing pretty well. And you're like, you cannot, there are people who, the moment LeBron steps on the court, they just go nuts for him or against him. I really don't know many people who have zero opinion or just, what, you either love him or he's not the kind of guy you want around.
Yeah, and most of the people I know actually used to love him and now hate him today. So
that too. You're right.
He's turned a lot of opinions around throughout his career. That's for sure.
Well, I think the Miami thing didn't help him. Now, he redeemed himself by going back to Cleveland and winning a championship. But then he left Cleveland again. and this time for the Lakers. And a lot of I know a lot of Laker fans who live in Los Angeles. They're Laker fans and they want to win, but they're not LeBron fans. If you go out there and watch, or even if you watch on television, you still see 20 Kobe jerseys to every one LeBron jersey. Because they don't consider him a Laker. They consider him a guy who plays in the Lakers, but not.
Yeah, well, he didn't really play his whole career. He kind of he came in his final stages just so he could focus on his Hollywood career after the NBA.
By the way, I think it's on Peacock, or it could be on. No, it's on HBO. There's a comedy movie about these two guys who clean LeBron James's house and decide that they're going, since LeBron's gone for a month, that they're going to go ahead and have a party there, and it's actually quite funny. So not that I'm usually pitching.
I hope it's not based on a true story, because that
would be fun.
That's going to end in a lot of cops.
Hey, we got a score update. Foxy gives us a score update from Turkey. 2-1 at halftime in Turkey.
Oh, Fatih Karagümrük. Who are they playing? Let me take a look at this. Ooh, yeah. Emraniyespor is not it's not a great team, and I think you'll be I think you'll be safe, Foxy. They have some that Fatih Karagümrük team has some behind the scenes things going on. They yeah.
Ooh, so what do you do? I mean, okay, you got 196 pounds. I don't know, man. I'd hold it. What are you going to do?
I mean, I'm not a big fan of cashing out in general. I usually like to let it ride, but I think in this particular case, Foxy will be fine. I don't think the refs are going to screw him in this one.
We hope.
Yeah.
All right, look, Foxy, come back tomorrow and tell us if you won, buddy. That's okay. Not bad. What was it? 310?
Yeah, 310 pounds. You said.
Yeah.
Versus 196. So basically, it's 200 or 300, but
yeah. No, actually,
hours, not
yeah,
hour money.
It's it is. Because the total on, was it 310 pounds?
Yeah.
Okay, so in US dollars, that would probably be, give or take, it would be about 350.
Yeah, then in Canadian shekels, it's like 1,000.
Boing. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, dude.
Honestly, that's probably like $400 Canadian easily. $450.
We'll do a quick rate thing while we're talking.
When I was in Vegas, I would take out $200 American. No, I would take out like $300 American, and it cost me like 480 Canadian.
Now, is that obviously that? Okay. All right. A Canadian dollar is worth 60 pounds sterling. So you're 60 cents on the dollar versus the pound.
I thought that's what we were to the American dollar.
It says Canadian dollar versus the English pound because it says 60 pounds sterling. 60 cents pound sterling, not 60 cents US.
Well, you know what? The pound isn't what it used to be.
Evidently.
Yeah, when I went to Italy back years ago, I remember when the euro was like 1.5 of the Canadian dollar, and then the pound was somehow even like double that.
Well, the pound was worth more. US dollars versus that, we're only 60 cents more. It's 80 cents on the pound sterling.
Okay.
And if you take that away, what do we say? 60 cents for you on pound sterling?
Yeah. What would it be to the American dollar?
Well, it would be 80 cents. if we followed the track, right? Because
Yeah.
it was 60 and it was 80, so you'd be 80 cents on the US dollar versus that. You would also, in between is euro. So, you're 60 cents of a euro, you're 70 cents. I'm sorry, a pound sterling, it would be 60 cents of a euro, of a Canadian dollar. For those who just tuned into our economics class here, we're just trying to
Yes.
get you straight on what it is. So, all right. Well, look. Any last thoughts before we bolt out of here on a lovely Tuesday?
No, good luck. Or yeah, go
Good luck,
enjoy
Fox.
the
Back tomorrow and tell us if you cashed out, dude.
go enjoy the Champions League games, and good luck to Foxy and his parlay. Something's definitely happening in this Fatih Karagümrük game because it's suspended on my sportsbook. This slight chance at a penalty for Fatih Karagümrük, so maybe it's going to be 3-1 soon. We'll see.
We'll see. All right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. Come back tomorrow. We'll have a lot of fun. And be safe. So, for Amadeus, I'm Jim. Take care.